Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Stay True to You. I am so stoked because it's happening. We are going global, and I have a very special guest with me today. Her name is Sima Mehta, and she is a one-of-a-kind woman, you guys. And I
Wow.
don't even know her. I just met her last week, and here we are recording a podcast episode. There's a lot I want to say about Seema. She is a very kind woman who is pouring her heart and soul into the work she does as a coach. And she talks so much about how to really speak up for yourself, how to set boundaries, how to own your truth. And I know when I saw her content on Instagram, I was like, she's speaking to me. This is what I need to hear from more women who have walked the journey before me. So I would love to welcome my guest, Seema. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Karishma, for having me. It's such a pleasure to talk to you again. And what you said about internationally, I'm like, wow, this is like a full circle for me because I spent
Mhm.
about 12 years of my life in Seattle. And I left India, went to Seattle, studied there. My kids were born there, and I came back to India. So having this opportunity to talk to somebody from the other side of the world again is wonderful. So thank you for having me.
Yes, it really spoke to me.
Sounds like a Wednesday morning in America.
Yeah, I live in a part of Philly where we are a little bit more in the quiet area. I love my shanti. I need to be able to
Yes.
meditate and journal and be able to hear my thoughts.
Can you
Um,
imagine living in a place like India,
yeah.
which is full of a lot of people, a lot of noise? Is you are never in a space to regulate yourself. And
Mm,
that's what makes it so exciting that when you can handle that chaos and find that space for yourself to sort of regulate. And how do you do that in that
yeah.
challenging chaos?
Yeah.
It's spectacular to do it in India. Try
I
coming here and doing it.
I may come visit you and make it happen with you sometime where we
Yes,
get
let's
to
do
just,
it.
do wellness activities in India because
Sounds good.
I India is very near and dear my heart. Um, it's a very special place for me, and I really appreciate you making the time to come on and share your perspectives.
My
Um,
pleasure.
yeah, so
That's because I really feel that a lot of Indian women, and I know that because I lived there for 12 years in the US, and
mhm.
I know the same conditioning that we experience in India is also over there. In fact, it's
Mm,
worse, I feel
okay.
sometimes because we are trying to adapt to a different culture along with the conditioning that you have within yourself is
Mhm,
very challenging. And I know that I had to make a lot of adjustment when I went there.
mhm.
And then the adjustment when I came back.
Yeah.
Very different cultures, very different environments. And the only thing that kept me going is, constantly focusing on who I was. And I think that's
Mhm.
the message I would like to give over the conversation that we'll have in the next 30, 40 minutes.
Yes, absolutely. And honestly, I love that you brought it back to who you are as a person. I kid you
Yes.
not. Um, about 2 months ago, I was sketching. And for
Hmm.
me, I love writing words that empower me and make me think deeper.
Right.
And I was going through a lot, and I literally wrote, "Who am I?" on the piece of paper because at
Yeah.
the age of 35, I'm like, whoa, there is so much that I have picked up over my upbringing, and I never questioned, you know? And I would
Yeah.
love to go into what you talk about when it comes to the good girl, you
Hmm.
know? You
Yeah.
you speak about the good girl so much in your messages, and
Yes.
I find that I kind of teeter-totter between good girl and being a
Hmm.
rebel. And so I'd
That's a
love to
great
hear
question.
from you. Yeah, like what does it
So,
mean to be a good girl? Because I don't know if everybody even knows that
yeah.
they may have been the good girl growing up. And what are the effects of being the good girl growing up?
That's a great question, Karishma, because I'll tell you the whole concept of the good girl conditioning, it actually came from my own life. Because as I was growing up, I grew up in Bombay and I grew up believing that love and acceptance
Mhm.
came with a set of rules. There were some rules. In order to earn love and acceptance, I had to follow some rules, and those rules came from the society, it came from culture, family, dynamics, everywhere,
Mhm.
thousands of years of conditioning. And I remember one of the favorite activity we had as kids was to watch this show called Ramayan. And
Mm.
Ramayan was we used to get up every Sunday, and and this show is coming. We're so excited to watch it. And the thing that fascinated me as a kid was there is this woman named Sita who
Mhm.
is constantly trying to prove her chastity to Ram and the people of Ayodhya. She, without asking any questions, follows her husband to the forest. And then, when she's pregnant and her character is being questioned, she's being sent away again. And I'm not saying this is a man versus woman situation
Mhm.
because Ram was operating at his own thing, but I
Mhm.
think she was the original good girl.
Mm.
The fact that she was so conditioned that this is what obedience is the real virtue. And if you adjust and adapt to everybody else's needs
Mhm.
and completely ignore yours, your nervous system starts to then operate from that level
Mhm.
where I'm here to take care of everybody else's needs. I don't even know what my needs are.
Mhm.
So, and I find that a lot of women that I work with in India or abroad, they kind of follow this sequence. There's a sequence like a compartment of a train, one after the other. So, study, achieve something in your life, then get married, then serve, and then feel.
Yeah.
So what is happening is you're focusing so much on the external environment that by the time you realize as your hormones and different phases of your life, different roles that you take up, you get back to yourself and you realize I don't even know what I want. So
Mm.
this good girl conditioning is where we focus so much on that external life and in taking care of everybody else that we
Mhm.
forget who we are. And then what happens is that your body starts to see the effects of this conditioning.
Yeah.
You know, I have seen my clients who have gone through exhaustion that even sleep cannot fix, or anxiety that sounds like productivity, or they have gut issues and skin issues and inflammation and all kinds of stuff, because ultimately this has to have a physical symptom. I mean, this
Mhm.
kind of conditioning has a lot of physical symptoms.
Wow.
So, and
Wow.
I want to make this very clear that I'm not asking women to become bad girls. That's not what
Of
I'm
course.
saying. What I'm saying is that first operate from the goodness of yourself. Don't
Yeah.
become the bad girl, but operate from the goodness of yourself first, and uh, you know, then go in the external environment. So it's the reverse. Flip the framework is what I'm asking people to do.
Oh, I am doing a happy
Feel
dance
first.
internally. Yeah.
Feel first. Yeah, feel
Yeah.
first. That's the message.
And I'm so grateful that you brought it, full circle because I'd never even thought for a moment that what we were learning, like
Yeah,
Indian women were learning in the scriptures and in our
yeah,
history, right? Like that's part of what we learned that, okay, if Sita could be like this, then
yeah.
we should be too. And I have a very big allergy to the word should. That word is not in my dictionary,
Yeah.
I think it's
But
beautiful.
but the thing is, the word should is something that a lot of women that I talk to, they don't even know that they could.
Yeah.
They're so focused on this is how I should do. This is what I'm
Right.
supposed to do.
Right.
And it's nobody's fault. There's no guilting here. We're not trying to guilt anybody here. But the fact is that if you really go back to your, like, I grew up with that thing that it's very important to have that obedience.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Being that good girl, having that virtue, because that's strength.
Yeah.
That makes you flexible, that makes you mature, that makes you the good girl. That's
Mm-hmm.
what everybody wants. And in that process, somewhere as your body starts to go through changes and you reach menopause, by the time you reach the 50s and you reach menopause, your nurturing hormone, which is the estrogen, starts to drop. And then
Mm.
you realize, oh my god, I've been doing everything for everyone, who's there for me?
Exactly.
And that question can be very, very tough for a lot of women, and I
Yeah.
see that every day.
Oof. It must be, you really hold space for a lot of women's challenges. And
Yes,
in our Zoom coffee chat, you shared that you don't know what you would do without journaling today, and
that's right.
I'm a fellow journaler. I have a
Yes,
whole bookshelf of journals over the years because it has been so cathartic to put pen to paper. And,
right.
I'm sure you do a lot for others. And I
Yeah.
can tell you are someone who practices what she
Mm-hmm.
preaches. You know,
Mm-hmm.
you have truly embodied these teachings first because it was your own journey. And now you're
Right.
helping other women with exactly that.
So I'll tell you, before I started my brand Atmika, which is my Instagram handle also,
Mhm,
I used to teach. So when I just to backtrack a little bit, when I was at the University of Washington, I did
mhm,
my MBA program there.
mhm,
I started noticing the difference between Indian kids and the American kids. And
mhm,
I saw that Indian kids were academically very smart, but they were always scared to express themselves, to fail, to communicate well. And I thought that there is a gap here. So when I came back to India, I began a brand where we were actually teaching a lot of children the art of confidence building and communication skills.
mhm,
And
mhm.
in that journey of 12 years and teaching over 3,000 students, what I realized is that the most important and powerful thing is your mindset,
Yeah.
right? So your mindset is the product of all your beliefs that are sitting inside your subconscious mind.
Mhm,
And whether you talk about athletes or CEOs or people who do really well in their life, actors, the ones who go furthest are the ones who worked on what's actually happening inside.
mhm,
So I said, when I decided to then move over to Atmika and help a lot of the women who go through this nervous system dysregulation, I
mhm.
wanted to focus on that mindset. But
Yeah.
I said, no, I can't do it. Like you said, I will not do something unless I do it first myself. So I have never journaled in my life. I wish I was as smart as you are, where I should have started early, but I didn't.
Okay.
But
That's okay.
I began this journey right before I launched the brand Atmika. I
Mhm,
started journaling. And over a period of time, I realized that this is what we need. Between our feelings and our dealings, we need to be in this learning space. But
mhm,
what I did not like about journaling is I didn't want journaling to be all about just dumping about your feelings.
mhm.
Because it's like saying, okay, I got injured here, I'm scratching it again and again, and the scab is coming out and I'm not healing.
Yeah.
So I created a program or a curriculum
Mhm,
called the therapeutic journaling, where I said I need to understand my patterns.
mhm,
Here is this data that is in front of me, my
mhm,
behavior, my triggers. How do I respond to those triggers? How do I respond to the external environment? Understanding myself and my patterns. Now, what do I do with this data? That was the challenge. It's not enough to just write about how you feel.
yeah.
It's writing about now that I feel this, how do I reframe this? How do I use this? What do I do with it?
Mhm,
And that's exactly where the journey of journaling for me changed. And I started seeing a lot of my own personal transformation. And I said, wow, this is it. The idea is not to just write down about your feelings, but the idea is to reframe what
yeah.
you're feeling,
Yeah.
understand your patterns, because awareness is where change happens. So you
Mm,
got to have that awareness first.
yeah.
And that awareness comes through journaling. So I started this as an experiment, but I tell you, it's the most important thing that I do every single day in my life. It literally recalibrates me, reorients me, and brings me back to me. So, journaling has been extremely cathartic for me. It has
Yeah.
been also a very growth oriented tool. I've used it a lot. I use it every single day,
Mhm.
and it's something I don't compromise on.
I love it. I love it. We should have a journaling party at some point.
Let's do it. 8 o'clock
You're
every morning. Meet
You're,
me there.
yes. And honestly, it would be so wonderful to connect in this way and share the
Yeah.
magic of journaling because I think people take for granted how powerful it is to actually write it out, express it, and then do something about it.
The most common question I get when I talk about journaling is, who has the time, Seema? It's like, we have to take care of kids, pack their lunches, we have to go to work, we have in-laws. I don't have time to journal. So I understand where they're coming from. But the thing is, journaling, it doesn't just mean that you are writing in a piece of paper all the time.
Mhm.
I have clients who on the way to work record voice memos based on the structure I give them.
Mhm.
And it has worked beautifully for them
Mhm.
because it's literally saying, okay, I'm going to stop, take a pause, understand that there's a trigger that is bothering me. I
Mhm.
need to work on that and process it and
Mhm.
reframe it so
Mhm.
that then I can start the day really well. So there are so many different ways in which you can journal, and there are so many different times at which you can journal. I
Mhm.
think we don't give ourselves that even 10 minutes
Mhm.
of
Mhm.
time to regulate ourselves, and then we wonder why we overthink, why we wake up at 3 o'clock in the night
Yeah.
thinking about all these random thoughts which make no sense.
Yeah.
So journaling is very, very important, and I would actually really ask your audience to seriously consider doing it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing your perspective and take on it because you're right. I remember telling one of my friends, and I was telling him how I hosted a wellness event. I have a company called How Are You Really? And it's a
Mhm.
wellness events company here based in Philly. And
Okay.
it's all for us to come together and just be able to feel a sense of belonging, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
And it's not just,
That's
hey,
beautiful.
yeah, it's not just like a happy hour where we're drinking and chatting. We are sitting together in a circle and journaling together, expressing ourselves, and it makes us closer and build those deeper connections. So
Yeah,
if we can do that in community, why not have that deep connection with yourself, right?
absolutely.
You
Absolutely.
deserve that connection.
There's a spiritual side of journaling also. All
Mhm.
of us have come to this world, but there is a karmic lesson that we all need to learn. There's a beautiful book that I really like, which is Many Lives, Many Masters by Dr. Brian Weiss,
Mhm.
where he talks about this concept of we have to learn our karmic lesson before we actually die and leave this world.
Mhm.
Which is, for example, if you are a very impatient person, how do I become patient? The universe will say, listen, Karishma is a very impatient person, so let me give her more experiences where she's impatient.
Mhm.
And if we don't focus on that dominant trait, which is that karmic lesson, I need to be more patient. And that awareness comes only through journaling. So
Yes.
I love this idea of, connecting with other people, sharing these ideas and saying, wow, I didn't think of it this way.
Yeah.
Or maybe I need to change my perspective.
Mhm.
Maybe I use it to understand what other people are thinking.
Mhm.
And let's face it, today in this world, the way the world is going, we need that perspective. We need that understanding of
Yes.
everyone. People are
Absolutely.
diverse and people have different choices, and
Mhm.
we need to understand each other really well in this world. But first, try to understand yourself
Yes.
first. Yeah.
And that being said, actually, I'm curious because I have it written down. I'm going to read it to you. It's
Okay.
your words. And I'm curious if this came up when you were journaling because I had to screenshot it. I saw it and I was like, mind blown, you know? It was amazing. So I'm going to
I'm
quote it.
now getting a little worried because here, let me tell you a secret.
Yeah.
Every morning after I finish journaling, I put up a story on Instagram, and
Mhm.
it's literally what I wrote about.
Oh,
So
wow.
sometimes if that hit you and if that's what you screenshotted, it's probably because I wrote about it just about half
Yeah.
an hour before that. Yeah.
Okay, I had a feeling because I saw your story where you're peacefully sitting and journaling, and then that
Yeah.
quote came up, and I was like, okay, this has to be her words.
They are. They are most
Yeah.
likely, and the, it took a long time me to build that kind of courage and vulnerability to put myself out there. But I
Mhm.
realized that the bigger picture is that there are a lot of women who go through the same thing, and when I express it, and a lot of people respond to me on those stories and say, "Wow, you're just talking." I felt like you were talking about me, and
Mhm.
I'm like, "Yeah, we all go through the same things."
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
I'm so glad that you like something that I put up.
Yes, it was powerful, and I am a very big lover of language, you know, like I would like to be a writer. I write
Okay,
blogs, I write just all
that's
the time
awesome.
I'm writing, you know. So your words really spoke to me, and I'll just read it, and then I'd love to hear
Okay,
what was behind this thought-provoking insight. Like, what was your experience that made you come to this realization?
okay,
So you said, don't train yourself to tolerate environments that don't match you. That's how
Mm.
people slowly lose their confidence and their identity.
Mm.
Instead, train yourself to recognize where you actually belong.
Yeah, I remember that. So this actually came from a lot of my whenever I write down things in my journal, it comes from my coaching sessions with my clients. A lot of them come from these very high achieving women. And women are so amazing. And I meet these kind of high achieving women on a daily basis. One thing that we have done very well for ourselves is that we were raised to adapt. Everything was about adaptability. So we are extraordinarily great adapters. We
Yeah.
are great at adjusting, adapting, and we were praised for it. It became like a virtue that she's so flexible, she's so mature, she's adapting so well. And I think that this quote about don't train yourself to tolerate environments really came from there, because there is a cost to that. When you keep trying to please everybody else and you trying to figure out everybody else's needs, there is a cost to that which nobody names. And for years, you're accommodating to that environment that doesn't actually fit you. So you are trying to fit to that environment, but that environment is not fitting to what you need.
Mhm.
So I have so many clients who tell me that, oh, ask me anything about anybody in my family or my friends, and I'll tell you exactly what they need. And when I ask them, what is it that you need? They are not able to answer that question. And this is because your nervous system starts to learn to override its own needs and its own signals,
Mhm.
because you're so busy taking care of your family, taking care of your boss, taking care of your colleagues, taking care of your children, that you forget to listen to your own signals. What is it that I need? And that discomfort stops feeling like useful information, because discomfort is good for you, because
Mhm.
that's where you actually grow.
Mhm.
You stop trusting yourself as a result of that. Your confidence starts to kind of waver, and you lose the thread of who you are underneath all of those things.
Mhm.
So I feel like when I meet a lot of my clients who are practicing tolerating, and here's where I want to make a distinction. I'm talking about the difference between tolerating something and discernment. So
Mhm.
tolerating means that I'll manage this. But discernment means that, does this actually belong and fit into my life?
Right.
Where do I not have to shrink in order to fit in, or where do I need to adjust in order to fit in, or where do I have to operate without having a mask or a performance? Where does my energy shrink, and where does it expand? That's discernment. So this is literally the difference between tolerance and discernment, and I see it all the time. And the recognition of, this is where I belong, this unfortunately comes really later in your life. And so many years are wasted in just losing that signal. And I think that's where I think this quote came from, because sometimes I get very frustrated when I see that in women. When I
Mhm.
ask them specifically what is it that they are looking for, what is it that they want, they don't know how to answer it.
Oh, that breaks my
And
heart.
yeah, and you can see how much distance is created in that whole cultural conditioning, that good girl, where you are creating such a distance in just to try to fit in. Because we've been told constantly that obedience is virtue.
Mm.
And that's what we follow. That's the path we follow. Of course, things are changing. And I'll tell you, I thought that this was my generation because I'm in my late 50s.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
I still see a lot of women who are in their early 30s or mid 30s who have still the same problem,
Really?
because their parents came from that conditioning. So they are still a product of that upbringing. They become emotional stabilizers for their parents,
Mhm.
trying to come, if you see a situation where mom and dad are constantly fighting and you grew up seeing that and you became the emotional stabilizer for your parents, that goes inside your belief system, and then you start to become the person who takes care of everybody else so that there is peace. That's your survival mechanism. So
Mhm.
what do we need to do? We need to upgrade our beliefs. We
Mhm.
need to update, because those beliefs that we had as kids to survive no longer work as adults, but we
Yeah.
haven't updated that program yet.
Mhm.
So I
Mhm.
think this came from that we keep tolerating that environment because we still think that we are that child who used to be the stabilizer for the family,
I feel
right?
like I'm in a trance right now. I'm like, keep talking, Seema.
Say the same thing to my kids and they will not agree.
Well, speaking of kids, actually, this is the perfect segue into my next question for you.
Um,
Because I am in awe, like if I had this kind of teachings while growing up, I would be a very different Karishma today, you know?
yeah,
And
there is some truth to that because I myself went through the same thing. So yeah, you're right. I do
yeah.
agree that parenting is now becoming a very critical part of our nervous system regulation.
Mm.
And trust me, I've screwed up a lot. So
And that's
all of the
okay,
things that,
right? Like you're
yeah,
human.
yeah,
You're
yeah.
human. But
I'm
it
here to
takes,
experience everything.
yeah, but you admit it. You take
Yes,
accountability.
yes.
In my experience, I have observed from my community, I'm one of the few bachas of the community that is very close to her aunts and uncles.
Hmm.
I call my aunts and uncles, I hang out with them, like I'm very close to my community in that way.
That's very
And
good.
I observe that there is a disconnect, right? Like
Mhm.
they don't know what they don't know.
Correct.
So the fact that you have this awareness and you can say, hey, I've messed up,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
not perfect.
correct.
And I can take the action to do better, to learn more, right? मैं
Hmm.
तंग आ गई हूँ. I'm gonna say it. I am annoyed. I'm so over it when people are like, oh, but they're too old to change now. क्यों? Why?
Yeah.
Why?
But
I don't
I agree with
understand.
you. I have the same frustration because I don't think that change happens only at one period of time. It's a constant, change is constant.
Yes.
And remember, you came to this universe to experience everything. You owe it to the universe. Every single day when I do my journaling, the first thing I write is gratitude, where
Yeah.
I say, thank you so much for giving me one more day
Yes.
to be who I'm supposed to be. And I think that that can happen at any phase of life. So
Yes.
you're absolutely right. That's, I can understand your frustration because I don't think we can hide behind that statement of अभी आप बहुत देर हो चुकी है अब क्या करेंगे, too late. No, it's
Mhm.
not too late. It's
No,
never too
we're
late.
still alive.
In- And if you can't change a lot of things yourself, you can become the change maker for so many people. Because I find a lot of these uncles and aunties are, including myself, are influencing the next generation in so
Yeah.
many ways or
Yes.
creating the trauma
Mhm.
because generational trauma is where we are constantly getting stuck. So I think they do have that responsibility to say that, yeah, it's never too late to change.
Yes. Yes. And so that's what I would love to hear from you. What is your
Mhm.
message or guidance for parents that are
Yeah.
raising their children? Because I'm at a stage of life where all of my friends have kids.
Right. Right.
And I would love for my
Remember the
community.
sequence:
Yeah.
study, do
Yeah.
well, get married, have children. That's the sequence. Yeah.
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 And I'm actually child free by choice. My husband and I had decided not to have children. We're very happy with this lifestyle choice.
Absolutely.
So
Why not?
but I still love kids and I think
Yeah.
about the next generation. So I would love to hear your thoughts. What would you say to the parents that are raising their children today so they
Mhm.
don't repeat what their parents did?
So you said it yourself, right? Awareness is where change begins.
Mm,
That's where change actually starts. So first, I'm going to say this to every parent who is listening, and I say this with a lot of love, that you are a product of what you were taught, which
mm,
was the social conditioning.
mhm,
You are operating from there. Your parents also came from the same conditioning. So there is no guilt here, there is no blame here. We are all trying to create awareness. And even through your podcast, that's what we are doing, right? We are trying to create that awareness
mhm.
because any kind of change begins with this conversation where we are saying, okay, let's question this narrative.
Yeah.
Like what I did when I was a small kid watching Ramayan. And
Mhm,
I'm wondering, why did nobody ever talk about the fact that she was pregnant and she was sent off to the forest? That makes no sense to me.
mhm,
But I was that kid who asked those questions. And that's why I would say the first thing I would say to the parents is watch what you reward. So don't be, don't light up because your kids got great marks or brought some prize home, or, was, felicitated for something wonderful that they did in school. Those are great things too. I am sure you should celebrate it. But if your child chooses not to do something because she doesn't feel good about it, or she says no to something, I think you should felicitate that as well.
Mm.
So don't just say, oh, but I'm telling you, in India especially, if a
Mm-hmm.
child gets 95%, the parent will say, how did you lose the 5 marks? That's the first question that you're asked. So I think we should sort of encourage the process, the journey, rather than saying, okay, this is the outcome. If the outcome is A, B, C, then it's great. So don't just be very careful about what you reward. That's number one.
Mm-hmm.
Secondly, if and celebrate what she failed at. Talk about failures. I mean, I remember seeing this one video where this girl was saying the best thing about my childhood was every night at the dinner table, my dad would ask me, so today what did you fail at? Let's normalize failure. Why do we criminalize failure so much? Because it affects your nervous system to the extent that your confidence goes away. If
Yeah.
I'm constantly in that, this whole thing about Carol Dweck talking about fixed mindset versus growth mindset.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
mean, the fixed mindset is really where I don't think I can do it. Failure is not good enough. I want to be this perfectionist. I won't do it unless I do it perfectly right. That's why
Mm-hmm.
today we are seeing so many people who procrastinate so much. It's
Mm-hmm.
because we are so afraid of failure
Yeah.
that we always want to, cross all the T's and check, dot all the I's. But you don't have to do that. It's okay to fail,
Mm-hmm.
and it's okay to normalize that even in a family. So I think that's the most important thing. Second thing is very important to see, let your child see you regulate. When
Mm-hmm.
you go through some big crisis in your life, and I've gone through this myself. My husband was a cancer patient, and my kids were very small when he was diagnosed with cancer.
Wow.
It was a very big challenge in our life, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I had to work on a lot of regulation, and I wasn't trying to be strong.
Mm-hmm.
There were tears. I showed my vulnerability to my children. At the same time, I assured them that it's okay to have these feelings. Let's label those feelings. It's okay to
Yeah.
understand that this is a tough phase of our life. And the fact that we are all together, we'll handle it. We'll
Mm-hmm.
take care of it together.
Mm-hmm.
Here's what I need from you, and
Mm-hmm.
here's what I can give for you. And I protected them. But at the same time, I showed them when big feelings come inside your life, how do you regulate? Because the body responds to feelings, not words. So it's
Mm-hmm.
very important that your children see and witness you regulate these feelings.
Yeah.
If they see you constantly lose it every single time, they are going to be dysregulated themselves.
Wow.
And and that's a very critical part, right? And the
Yeah.
third thing is that you don't want your children to follow that sequence all the time. I see that a lot today. So, you know, um, for example, the way I got married. So
Mm-hmm.
here's a guy who comes from the US, and here's a Gujarati girl in Bombay. She's finished her education. She's worked. She's now 26 years old. And I'm like, hello, you're 26 years old. You should get married now. And then they get married in 5 days, and then she goes off to the US. That's my story,
Wow.
basically. So what
Wow.
did I do? I studied. I was a good girl. I studied. I did well. I worked for 3 years. I did everything right. And when it came to my marriage and the fact that I was uprooted from my country, changed my last name, go off to a completely different country, I never questioned it because that's the
Mm-hmm.
sequence I was taught. So
Oof.
I am saying to the parents today, don't hand your children a sequence,
Yeah.
because you have to understand life is fluid. Challenges are going to be thrown at you from every direction.
Mm-hmm.
So allow them to grow and feel everything first.
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't allow them to go through that sequence and then feel.
Mm-hmm.
Let them connect with themselves first. Allow them to build their foundation from there, rather than go through the sequence of everything. So I'm not saying don't study, don't do something right. I mean, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that if through that journey, if they choose whatever they are choosing and they fall, and we kind of, I always give this example of, imagine that as a parent, be the sun.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But
Okay.
don't come too close to them, otherwise they'll burn.
Mm.
Stay far enough to give them your light and support them unconditionally, but don't put them in a box constantly where they completely forget how to feel. So feeling is the foundation of what they build. So that's what I feel that parents should do.
I would
But
love to meet your kids and tell them how lucky they are, how blessed they are to have a mother like you.
trust me, they will not agree.
I
And
think
I'll tell you, I have
down the
arrived at
road.
this point. I have arrived at this point by making a lot of mistakes. And the great thing about that conversation that I have with my kids is that, I have screwed up so much.
Yeah.
And I apologize to them also from time to time to say to them that I know that I looked at you as an experiment because I didn't know there's no book that
Yeah.
can tell you the right way. Every parent will experience in a very different way. Nobody taught you how to be a parent. You learn as you go.
Mhm.
And if we were taught that failure is okay, then maybe we would have been more regulated. But we were so focused on doing it right all the time that
Mhm.
that pressure is what actually broke us down.
Mm.
So very important to have that openness, that vulnerability with a kid. And how do you make a child resilient, for example? How
Yeah.
do you make a child resilient? You tell a child, you know what? I know this is hard, but I also know that you can handle it.
Mhm. Mhm.
Don't solve their problems.
Yeah.
Sometimes just listen to what they have to say
Mhm.
and acknowledge and validate what they are feeling. Again, it's about going back to the feelings. Validate how they feel. And also tell them, I know you can do it.
Yeah.
And whatever you do is going to be fine. It's your mistake. And
Mhm.
if you make a mistake, you'll figure out how to solve it. That's how you build that growth mindset.
Ugh,
So parents play a very
amazing.
important role, and I hope that the parents listening to this will think about what I'm just saying.
Trust me, I will be spreading the word and say, hey, you have kids, go listen to this podcast episode.
Sure. And I'm very happy to welcome comments and conversations about this because I think we have to talk about it. So I'm really grateful to you that you brought up these kind of wonderful questions and in the
Yeah.
opportunity to express and share what I have learned in my journey
I
of
really
57
enjoyed our
years.
conversation today, Seema. It was just a breath of fresh air, and I felt like you were giving me a warm hug through the screen, you know? Every time you
So,
would, yeah, every time you would say something, I would be like, yes. Like I feel it in my body, you know? And I'm so grateful that you are doing this work because it is so needed, you know? And
yeah.
I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna be very transparent. I don't see many women in their 50s doing what you're doing.
Oh, I'll tell you, when I began the brand Atmika, I was 54 years old when I actually started the brand Atmika. I'm now 57.
Hmm.
Oh, so I was almost 55, sorry. And I was new to Instagram, and I'm like, you know what? I have a message. I don't care about the outcome because at this stage of my life, I'm building a life that fits me.
Yes.
So I don't care that Instagram is a young people's game. I
Hmm.
don't understand it. I'm just going to say what I have to say. And I started creating these reels. And then one day, somebody told me, there's when you reach some X number of followers or whatever, they say, wow, you're a content creator. And I'm like, really? I don't see myself as a content creator, but I see myself as somebody who's trying to send out this message that, we have to start feeling from the inside.
Yes.
We have to acknowledge and understand why we have come to this earth. And that's one of the reasons why I practice a lot on how I can be true to myself. How do I become true to myself is what I want to share with the world. And that's basically the last 3 years of doing Atmika has actually led me to that point.
Would you say that because you're being true to yourself, that you are feeling fulfillment as a result of that?
So, this is how I explain it to my clients.
Mm.
I always say that like I said right in the beginning, you've come to this universe to experience everything. You have a
Mhm.
short period of time where you can experience everything.
Mhm.
And look at the amount of time we waste
Yeah.
in doing people pleasing, overthinking, anxiety, stress, all of these things. But we came here to experience everything, right? When you arrive at this earth, you are at your purest essence, which is what is known as your higher self. But
Mm.
over time, as you experience life and people and emotions and experiences, you start to move and gravitate away from it. Where did this come from? We were hunters and gatherers thousands of years ago.
Mm.
Our brain started scanning for threat. There's a predator, is going to come and attack me. That same function of the brain continues even today.
Mm.
Even today, the brain is doing exactly the same thing. There are no predators, there are no lions and tigers, but there are people and emotions and experiences that we see all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And we are still functioning from the smaller self, which is also part of us, which is the protector side of us.
Mm-hmm.
And we are functioning from fear and conditioning and unmet needs,
Mm-hmm.
where when we should be operating from wisdom and clarity and intelligence, which is your higher self. This is who you are. And what I discovered is, so I thought, okay, I'm going to discover what my soul is.
Mm-hmm.
Ultimately, I realized that I am the soul, which
Mm.
is why I named my brand Atmika, which is connect to your soul, because you are the soul. So
Yeah.
you've come to this earth to experience everything. How do you stay true to yourself? Go back to your higher self.
Yeah.
That's the way to do it. And when you update your energy, you update your belief systems to fit to where you are in your stage of life. That's when the world around you will recalibrate their energy to match yours. So
Oh,
if you are stuck in this channel
yeah.
of, this vibration and frequency of, okay, it's terrible, I'm anxious, I'm living in the negativity of the past, how will you enjoy the adventure of the future? You got to get out of that channel and go elsewhere. And that's my mission, and that's my goal, and that's the process that I teach to all my clients. So, and I must caution your viewers that this is not a destination; it's a
Mm-hmm.
practice.
Mm-hmm.
Because here's what I do. So I laugh about it. I have always been a very short-tempered person, and I
Mm.
have really worked on that through my practice. But once in a while, I will lose it. And when I lose it and I write about it in my journal, I laugh about it and I say, so that's what happened to me. I came here to experience everything. Great. Now let me go back to my higher self. How would my higher self respond if
Yes.
this same situation comes again? And
Mm.
that's what we need to focus on. And that's what we need. That's how you grow.
Yeah.
Remember, it's a practice, it's not a destination.
I so appreciate everything you shared today, Seema. I am
Thank you.
definitely going to be listening to this on replay many times because you dropped so many golden nuggets at every point of our conversation. And I'm
I think you asked
very,
the right questions. I think the nuggets came from the questions, and I think, credit goes to you.
well, that's what we do as coaches. We ask
Yes.
questions,
You asked the right question. That's absolutely on the dot. You're right
Thank
about that,
you.
Karishma.
Thank you. I also love taking interest in people.
Yes.
It gives me so much joy. My dad said, he would say, "Okay, Karishma, we have two ears and one mouth for a reason." And so
Correct.
for me to listen and truly get into somebody else's world is not
Mm.
only a privilege, but it's also a joy for me,
Exactly.
you
And
know?
imagine if the whole world practices that, where even if I don't agree with what you're saying, let me make an attempt to at least understand what you're trying to say. Where are you coming from?
Mhm.
Because otherwise, it's just a ball of misunderstandings and, miscommunication. Let's try to communication, the fundamental basic goal of communication is to understand each other, not
Yeah.
to just tell other people what you're trying to say, but to understand each other. And the minute we flip that framework, I think that this world will be a better place.
And that's what we're gonna do. So
That's what we're going to do.
on that note, I would love for our audience to be able to connect with you. And,
Mhm.
honestly, I'm sure many of our listeners would say, "Hey, I want to work with Seema." So, how
That's
can
so
they
nice of
connect
you.
with you and be a part of your world? Where can they find you?
So, first of all, my brand is called Atmika, which is AATMICA,
Hmm.
Atmika.official, which is my handle on Instagram. That is probably the best way because a lot of people send me so many messages, and that's how you and I connected too.
Yeah.
And so many conversations actually start from there. I read every single comment, I answer them myself.
Mm.
Every DM that comes, I answer them myself. So that's one way of connecting with me. The other is, of course, I have a website called atmika.com. You can go there and connect me through that. And of course, through this great podcast that you've created. And here's what I really want to say to your listeners. This world is shrunk, right? It's flat now. Half of my clients are from US, UK, Dubai, the other half are from India. So
Mm.
there is no, and I think I'm in a unique position, I feel, because I have spent 12 years living in Seattle. I've lived there for about 12 years. And shout out to all my friends in Seattle. And and I'm actually coming to the US next month. I'll be there for a month, visiting all my lovely friends in Seattle. I still have so many friends and so many good memories. But
Yeah.
I have a unique understanding of how women Indian women, especially living abroad as well as in India, what conditioning does to them and how can they regulate the nervous system. So I have been extremely fortunate to be able to balance that on both sides of the continent, both sides of the world, actually.
And that's such
So
a
yeah,
beautiful way to just keep sharing your message, right? Like, I
yeah.
feel so grateful that I got to connect with you, and I'm even more excited to take this on a global level, you know? So
Yes,
I think it's
absolutely.
phenomenal that you are reaching people from different backgrounds and you're bringing people together, right? That's what we need. We live in a very
Yeah,
divided world. We
yes.
need people to come together and accept each other, you know?
And I can see that that's your mission, Karishma, because I see you here, I hear you say that two, three times. Everything you do, whether it is doing these podcasts or whether you gather people and journal together or you write blogs and you send out the message, this whole concept and mission that you have of connecting with everybody is, I think, absolutely fundamental to our existence and survival. Because
Mhm.
man is a social animal, women are social animals. We need to have that connection. And especially what I love about women is, while we divide ourselves into nurturers and providers. I think we need to now remove those, and we
Mhm.
need to say that, it's so great when we can talk about everything that we go through as women, and you are giving people that opportunity. So I really thank you for that. I appreciate what you do.
I feel seen. Thank you so much for reflecting that back to me. And definitely
Welcome.
more to come. So I will
Yes,
definitely include all of your details, guys, in the show notes. If you want to connect with Seema, you can go to the show notes and follow her on Instagram, check out her website, and consider how this work could impact your life. So
absolutely.
this was a
Thank you so
wonderful
much,
time.
Karishma. It's
Yeah.
really lovely talking to you, and I really appreciate the work that you do. And I hope that this message reaches as many people as possible. Let's
Most
aim for a
definitely.
million.
That is your mission. You are trying to
That's my
reach a
mission.
billion people. So
That's my mission.
let's make it happen.
Because I think we are responsible for changing the narrative, isn't it? We can't
Oh,
keep
yeah.
complaining about what women go through. We need to make that change ourselves. So let's
Absolutely.
do it.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so
Thank you
much,
for having me.
Sima.
Thank you for having me, Karishma.